We are the ones who don't know what we're fighting for. Give us a gun and send us all off to war. We are the ones who grow up in violent homes. We are the ones who don't know what's right or wrong. I know. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who are born into war. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck no more. No more. We are the ones who don't know why we're losing score. Give them a badge so they could send us to the morgue. We are the ones who are scared to walk out the door. We are the ones who don't know what we're dying for. I know. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who are born into war. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck. No. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who are born into war. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck no more. No. Get off his fucking neck. Oh, that makes you know he can't fucking breathe. So that makes you know we are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who are born into war. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck. No. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who are born into war. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck no more. No.
Warning: this podcast features adult subject matter, adult language, and things not meant for children to hear. Viewer discretion is advised. You've been warned. It was Thursday. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of appropriate ages, to the latest episode of the ImNoJoe podcast. I was going to do the whole ghost fucking sunglasses thing, but that didn't fucking work. I literally couldn't even see the goddamn screen. So here we are anyway. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Happy Halloween. Hope everybody's having a safe and festive evening. That being said, we have got some fights to talk about this weekend. So before we jump into it, first and foremost, how you doing over there, brother?
Doing pretty good. Happy Halloween. It's fun that fucking shit worked out. We got to do podcasts on Halloween and shit.
Hell yeah. Golf T would be here. Unfortunately, he is dealing with some health issues right now, so he is under the weather. We will push on, though, as we do around here. So, that being said, we are going to kick things off the way that we like to around here with a little bit of news and recent events. fight confirmations, cancellations, relevant news in the fight world we feel you friendly folks should all know about this weekend. Oh boy, there was some craziness this week to say the least. We actually don't have to go back to last week for the first time in I don't know how many fucking weeks, so that is good. We will knock on wood for that one. Uh, but to the surprise of no one, this week's news starts with John fucking Jones. We got confirmation this week that John Jones has officially reached a plea agreement for 90-day good behavior to drop the assault charge that he has against him from the drug specimen or the drug sample specimen collector, whatever person you want to call them, the person from USADA Vada, the other organization that came, and John basically threatened a woman, stole her phone, and held her fucking hostage until he decided that he was ready to let her go. So yeah, there is that. There's a plea agreement on the table. The interesting part though is the 90 days that John has to be good includes the time period immediately after UFC 309, where he will be defending his belt against Stipe. So should he win, this might be the closest he has ever come to literally tap dancing on a high wire in victory celebration time. Because if you've been watching John Jones any point in time or for any length of time, John does not know how to win without celebrating, and those celebrations usually end up with him having conversations with law enforcement officers, no matter where he is at this point. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens if he actually makes it to the fight next month, and then if he wins, how he manages to pull off any kind of a celebration and keep himself from getting yanked the fuck up back into the legal system here. We will see. That being said, going forward, UFC 309 lost a fight, but gained a fight at the same time this week. Charlie Campbell has officially pulled out of his fight with Mauricio Hufi, but James Lantop has stepped up to keep the fight on the card. So not the original matchup, but a little bit of the old switcheroo here 2 weeks out from UFC 309. That being said, we also got an out for 310, the final pay-per-view of 2024 for the UFC. We got word today that Bilal Muhammad has officially been hospitalized with a bone infection stemming from an injury in his toe. He had to have a PICC line and IV antibiotics inserted into him and has a no contact order for 6 months once he's actually released from the hospital, which he still is not. He's still currently admitted getting IV treatment. So a shitty situation all the way around, really. Shavkat, to his credit, handled it like a true fucking gentleman, says that he wishes Bilal the best and he will rather fight him when he's at 100%. And in the meanwhile, he'd be happy to fight for an interim title to close out and keep the fight on 310. I think that's a spectacular fucking idea. I think the whole thing's a little strange that Bilal accepted and then got the fight announced last week, only to end up in the hospital this week with an injury that has he has clearly had, words are live, hard sometimes, with an injury that he has clearly had for longer than a week. Obviously, we don't wish ill on anybody, but this whole circumstances just seems a little strange, to say the least. So we'll see how that plays out and what happens to 310, the final pay-per-view of the year. Just lost its literal main event. So as of right now, things are a little bit crazy, and we'll come back to this in a minute. Not that it has direct ties, but it does actually tap into the story that I'm going to finish up with later on here. That being said, though, moving forward, Derek Brunson getting back into action, but not in the UFC. He's actually headlining ADXC, which is the Brazilian ADCC competition, number 7, down in Rio de Janeiro on November 17th against Rodolfo Vieira. Now, I will say this, Derek Brunson is a decent grappler. Maybe not the most accomplished or most well-known jiu-jitsu practitioner, but he is fairly capable. Enough so to main event an ADCC event. Collar tug. I don't know. Especially against somebody as legitimately accomplished in jiu-jitsu as Rodolfo Vieira. Could get real interesting real fast, but I'm here for it either way. So we'll see how that plays out. that being said here, was there another one on the other side? There was. No, there wasn't. Never mind. Wrong thing. Looking at the wrong fucking page. Sorry about that. Life shit happens. The first pay-per-view of 2025, UFC 311, will be going down January 18th. Still location TBD. They don't know where the fuck it's going to be yet, but we did get a couple of interesting fights added to it this week here. The first one, the twerk machine herself, Eileen Perez, stepping back in against Carol Hossa, which is an interesting matchup all the way around. I'm pretty sure that's going to end up on the prelims, but you never know. Johnny Walker finally getting back into the cage, taking on Bogdan Guskov. A fairly winnable fight for Johnny Walker, but at the same time, if he shows up as horribly as he has his last couple fights, Bogdan might actually put him the fuck out again, and that could make things real interesting in that division all over the place for the worst kind of reasons. But UFC is going to UFC, so we'll see as we get closer to that. But the last one, the one that I think pretty much everyone that I have talked to is the most excited about that they have announced, the latest addition to UFC 311 will be undefeated prospect Peyton Talbot stepping back into the octagon, taking on Hayani Barcelos, the grappling fucking demon. That is going to be a very interesting matchup, considering that Peyton's a pretty fucking good grappler unto his own right. And I think fairly large, like fairly noticeably larger than Hayani Barcelos. This could be a very interesting matchup. This could be one of those that gets Peyton his springboard fucking moment here. So going to be interesting to see how that one plays out. Next one here, obviously not ideal conditions, but definitely something that does need to be talked about here. Bruno Silva has officially announced this week that after the loss at UFC 308, he is officially going to step away from MMA for the foreseeable future. He said he's not going to go into retirement, but he said he's been having struggles since the Chris Weidman incident, having mental struggles, feeling depression, just generally having a lot of problems in his life, and that the display of his performance at 308 was the pinnacle of that, and now he's going to step away, that he doesn't feel it's fair to compete dealing with all of this and not giving focus that it deserves to the fight game. And that is completely understandable, and I think completely justified here, given the shit that we watched him go through, and then Chris Weidman celebrate that and then not receive any punishment for it. Obviously that had some effect on Silva here, as you could tell. So hopefully he can get everything straightened out, get himself back to a good place and get back into the cage. But if not, even though it wasn't under the most ideal circumstances, this would still be technically one of those situations where a fighter makes his own decision to step away from the game, as opposed to having that decision made for him, where he will still be able to tie his shoes and write his name legibly when this is all said and done, as opposed to the alternative here. So hopefully it's not the end in an actual full-on retirement, but if it does come to that, tip of the cap to Bruno Silva for making decision on his terms and going out under the better of the circumstances that this situation could be happening. That being said, maybe not quite on the same level, but we also did get word just this afternoon that Jermaine Durandamy has been hounding the UFC to try and get one more fight in for 2024. And they did confirm to her this last weekend that all of the remaining fight cards for 2024 were completely booked up, and there was no chance of getting her signed for a fight in the end of 2024. It would be the beginning of 2025 at the earliest. And she said that will not work for her. So she has officially decided to retire from MMA. Now, this is the part that I mentioned earlier that will be tying back, because ironically, one of our earlier stories was all about how the final pay-per-view of the year just lost its main event, creating an opening for a fight at the end of 2024, literally the day after Jermaine Durandamy has announced that she is retiring because she couldn't get another fight before the end of the year. here we are still 2 months out before the actual end of the year. So don't count your chickens before they hatch, kids. Moral of that fucking story. But again, even with Jermaine Durandamy, even though she may not be the most fan favorite, she as well is making the decision on her own to end her career when she is still fully capable of tying her own shoes and signing her own name legibly, as opposed to the alternative. And for that, I will absolutely give a nod to the cap. So we wish her all the best in her future endeavors. That being said, here, the last one I have got for this week is one that gets every couple of weeks or so. The UFC has essentially purged the roster. They have taken a few of the names that have not done so well and are no longer needed for their services and parted ways with them. There are 7 interesting names here, and I wanted to run down these real quick. Granted, this is not the UFC cutting all these fighters. Some of them have fought out their contracts. Some of them are getting cut indeed, but these are all fighters who are no longer under the UFC roster as of this evening. Robelis Despania, kind of a surprising one given his recent popularity. Matthias Nicolau, Jessica Penne, Tamirez Vidal, Vinicius Salvador, Charalampos Gregorio, and Jesse Butler. Kind of interesting. Some of the names there. Robelis Espana was the big name here not that long ago. Matthias Nicolau was a hell of a contender for a while, but hit himself a serious rough skid for a while there. Penne was a title challenger. Charalampos Gregorio was supposed to be the next Georgian thing coming up behind Merab, and none of them seem to really be able to make the best of the opportunity that they got in the UFC. So they are all officially no longer employed with the Ultimate Fighting Championship. That being said, that is what I've got for news this week. You have anything over there that I might have missed?
No, I don't think so. I think covered most of it.
Good deal. Good deal. So that being said, that will bring us to the point in this podcast where if you've been watching combat sports for any significant amount of time, you tend to learn what you like to watch, when it comes on, where best to watch it, and you start to develop a set of metaphorical blinders, start to lose the combat sports forest for the trees, as it were. Luckily for us here on the show, we have ourselves an avid young person out there vigilantly and delicately fingering the pulse of the MMA world to help keep us abreast of all the names that are going to be names before they even are names, in a little segment that we call Slow Scans and Contenders.
Appreciate you, brother. To start with the fucking trash. I'm sure TJ would agree with me. You throw most of the card in that shit. There's literally a few fights that I think are going to be good. I'm excited for. You throw Ariane Lipsky in the trash. You can throw Alexander Romanov in the trash. Charles Jourdain, dude's still young. He's 28, but he's honestly not the greatest fighter. He probably looked decent this weekend, fighting Victor Henry and having the hometown crowd, but still throw him in the trash. You can throw that fight in the trash. Here's some guaranteed fights you got to throw in the trash. Chad Anheliger versus Cody Gibson. Jamie Lynn Horth versus Ivana Petrovic. You got to throw that in the trash. The Machado versus Ribeiro fight. Barrios versus Stoltzfus fight. Like I said, you can throw the majority of this fucking card in the trash. I do have 2 things that are contenders for me. One fight, Derek Lewis versus Jonathan Denise. To me, that's on the fence because of Denise's last fight against Carl Williams. He should have fucking smoked him, and that fight went to a decision. It was a boring walrus slap fight. It was extremely disappointing. Now this kid's getting Derek Lewis, Why in the hell did they give him that kind of step up, for one, but then for two, that potential of him just trying to go in there and pretty much take Derek down and just snooze it up because he's afraid of getting his lights put out. But it could be exciting as hell, right? Because both of them have that potential to fucking knock each other out. Seeing Derek Lewis getting truly knocked out would be something to see. Derek obviously continuing to be the gatekeeper would still be fun as well. Eamon Zahabi, though, is my Schrodinger's contender for this card. Dude's old. Like, he can't really be a contender in my eyes. I don't see him being able to make a true run at shit. He wins this weekend, yeah, he's probably going to get a ranked fight next. I don't think he'll crack into the rankings, but he'll get that opportunity next. But I don't see the dude being able to make a title run at 36 years old. He's not extremely active, only fights once or twice a year at best. So he's kind of on the fence for me. Even if he goes out and gets a knockout this weekend, I don't know what it really does for him. So he's on the fence. The actual contenders, though, shit that I'm really excited about. I've really just got a bunch of fights and one singular dude, Mike Malott. I still think the kid's got a lot of potential. He had a rough go against Neil Magny, but Neil's had over 30 fucking fights in the UFC. The dude is a seasoned veteran. He's the true gatekeeper of that welterweight division. The kid's still got an opportunity to bounce back. And Trevin Giles is no fucking what do you call it? Decent fighter. He's an absolute fucking pile of trash. So he should look fantastic in Canada, especially. Kid should bounce back well and see what he continues to do after that. But the fights that I'm looking forward to, Garrett Armfield versus Siri Sadi. I am really fucking excited for that one. Got to root for the Missouri boy. I damn sure think he's going to fucking go out there and throw down. Sadi's got potential, but he's also kind of not looked the greatest so far in the UFC. Garrett Armfield, in my opinion, has got more potential. I'm excited for him in this fight, but both the dudes could just throw down. We could get a hell of a fight out of it, and I'm hoping so. That's one of the few that I'm actually excited for. Then you got the co-main event. Obviously, those two ladies could steal the fucking show. Manon Fiorot's pushing on 40 years old. Valentina just won the fucking title. So I don't like she's gonna get to choose the shots. Rose and Valentina are friends, but if Aaron Blanchfield just destroys Rose Namajunas, she should really jump the field, kind of like Hamzat doing what he did to Rob Whitaker. We'll see how it goes. The fight's probably going to be exciting as hell, especially if Rose is fucking wanting to be violent. If she goes out there and beats the hell out of Aaron Blanchfield, that's going to be a hell of a sight to see. The main event, obviously exciting as hell. Whoever comes out on top keeps themselves right in that fucking title picture, just like Raw Dog is kind of in there. We'll see how that shakes out in the future, but Albazi's probably going to try to wrestle fuck Moreno. That's how I look at this. I hope Moreno is really trained that takedown defense and makes it an exciting ass fight. I know there's that potential because Moreno is a hell of a fucking fighter. He's pretty well rounded. So I'm still excited for that fight, even though I think Albazi is just going to try to wrestle fuck him for 25 minutes. The one I'm the most excited for, though, is my absolute contender, like fight of the fucking night before it's even happened. Yusuf Zalal and Jack Shore. Both of these dudes, I feel like, have so much fucking potential at this point. Yusuf Zalal's looked fucking great before getting back in the UFC, and then the first couple fights back in the UFC, he's on a 5-fight winning streak. 4 of them by first round finish. He's finished Billy Q and what's his nuts? Fucking Jarnio Aaron's in his first couple of fights back here. So this is going to be a big one. Jack Shore, he's 1-2 in his last 3. He's had a little bump in the road, but the kid looked fantastic getting into the UFC. Had a nice little winning streak. I mean, this would be a hell of a bounce back for him. I still feel like either way, this goes, the guy that loses could still bounce back. It'll be rougher for Jack if he loses this one, because then that's a couple losses in a row. But the last one to me wasn't a real loss, so I feel like the UFC would give him a pass on that one too. Fucking doctor stoppage because his leg had a cut on it. I mean, even if it was a gnarly fucking gash, it's on his leg. Or you fucking, I still cannot believe that that was stopped. But it is what it is, right? It happened. But that's the one I'm the most excited about. Obviously, we don't have TJ here. You might agree with me at least on those couple of fights. He's probably excited for the ladies co-main. He's maybe excited for the main. He's probably excited for the Shore and Zalal fight to a point, but everything else he'd say shit. I'd love to hear what you got to say, brother.
Yeah, so you pretty much nailed it top to bottom here. I will say that this, to be fair, is absolutely what we refer to as a hangover card. And this is exactly why we refer to them as hangover cards, because if you look at all the craziness we just had on the pay-per-view last week, compare it to this card, these are pretty much all, with the exception of the main and co-main event, what we like to refer to as contractual obligation matchups. None of these fights have any impact in their division. None of these fights have any impact on the title picture in any of their respective divisions. These are all pretty much just fights that had to be offered to the fighters contractually. Someone accepted and they have to be put somewhere. This is literally a fight night at the Apex in between a giant pay-per-view and then in 2 weeks, another giant pay-per-view. So not a lot of great ones. This is one of those turds that we're going to have a lot of trouble finding corn nuggets to polish out. There are a couple, though. Like you said, Jack Shore and Yusuf Zalal. Not only is that fight spectacular, they're going to open the fucking card with that fight. That's a very, very smart move on the UFC's part, in my opinion, because there's not a lot of excitement to be had on this card if you look at it all the way through. So taking one of the potential
Vinny said
biggest
the
fights,
same thing to me earlier tonight. He said the same thing, that it was a
so
good move
smart.
for them to make it the first fight. I thought it was stupid though, honestly, just because it's one of the better ones. They should have put it on the main card, but I still got it. Like I
Compared
can't
to the rest of
fully
what they have in the
disagree.
prelims, to compared to what else is on the prelims to get people excited for it,
Yeah,
I get it. Not to mention, this is also, to the UFC's credit, they did here in Edmonton this weekend what we talk about them doing pretty much anytime they go anywhere at this point, and that's pack the fucking card with locals, with people, if they're out of the USA, pack them from that country, specifically as close to the region that they're going to as they can. This card is fucking loaded with Canadians. There is a Canadian in every fight save for two, three. The main event, the main card opener, and then this fight, the main opening fight, Shore versus Alal. Those three are the only fights on the whole card without a Canadian in them. So they did absolutely do Canada good in bringing all the Canadians on this card. That being said, the matchups are pretty fucking rough, to say the least. Jack Shore uses a while. Great fucking matchup. Great placement, in my opinion. I agree with Vinny 100%. I agree with you as well. Armfield versus Saidi, that, in my opinion, has potential fight of the night right there, going up against Shore versus Alal. Those two are pretty much neck and neck, in my opinion, for the two most exciting fights on this card, in my opinion, as a whole. Obviously, the co-main event has a lot of potential to be really fucking good. I agree. If we see the Rose Namajunas that beat the shit out of Joanna and Jacek twice show up this weekend, Aaron Blanchfield is in big fucking trouble. If we see that timid, I don't know what to do, I can't make my fucking mind up girl that fought Carla Esparza and let her walk all over her, Blanchfield is going to take a fucking highlight reel on Rose this weekend and make herself undeniable in that fucking title picture. I will say this: when I was making my posts earlier for this, the entirety of the main card, save for Chow Machado, has their Instagram accounts blocked, so you can't even tag them. That's one of the things that I do pretty much every week. I tag as many of the fighters going onto that card as I can, just trying to help everybody fighting for a fucking living get an extra eye or two on them. the majority of this entire fucking main card's Instagrams are all locked down, so you can't tag them in anything. That's a little shitty in my opinion. If you're a fucking prize fighter and you need people to watch you fight to get your fucking paychecks earned, like, I get it that there's some crazies out there and you might have to deal with some spam, but not everybody on this main card is that big and would have to deal with that much spam, in my opinion. So it was a little disheartening, but you know, that's neither here nor there. That being said, I agree. The vast majority of this card's matchups are just rough. This is one of those cards where I like to tell people when they ask me, are there going to be a lot of good fights this weekend? I respond with, there's fights this weekend. There's potential for a lot of fun in several of these matchups, like we talked about here. Ayman Zahabi versus Pedro Munoz could get absolutely fucking crazy. But at the same time, it could be an absolutely fucking boring 15-minute stare at each other and dance on your bike match. And to the extent that I'm not even willing to give that a Schrodinger's contender for this weekend, because in my opinion, it has a better chance of being boring than it does of being good. That being said, there is one that I am genuinely curious about, enough so to give it my actual Schrodinger's contender for this Edmonton card. That's the premier prelim fight. Marc-Andre Barriault versus Dustin Stoltzfus. Neither guy, to be fair, is a world breaker. I don't think either one of them is going to be fighting for a belt anytime soon. But these are both dudes who, when they are on, can put on spectacular performances here. And power bar, Marc-Andre Barriault is fighting at home. This is one of those Canadians I was talking about earlier that the UFC put on the UFC Edmonton card very intelligently, and they put him in the premier prelim spot, the card ender for the prelims, the one to get everybody ready for the main card to start. And there's a lot of potential for Andre Barriault to come out and just do fucking work. This is, again, there's another one. This could be 15 minutes of why the fuck are we doing this? But in Canada with Barriault on it, I think it also has potential to be fairly interesting. So that's my contender of the week. Other than that, I think you pretty much nailed it top to bottom, brother.
Hell yeah. Hopefully it surprises us, but on you ain't lying. It's a fucking hangover after a disappointing pay-per-view finish, man. And for us hardcore fans, seeing Rob and Max go out like that was rough. And this weekend is not going to help us soothe the pain. I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you very much, sir. So this will bring us to the point in most podcasts where you get some bullshit B-roll ad for some fucking product that no one on the podcast actually uses, or some company that no one on the podcast even fucking knows about. And we don't play like that around here. Here at the I'm No Joe podcast, we're sponsored by viewers like you. Patreon.com/ImNoJoe helps us do what we do around here. For as little as $1 a month, you can help us do what we do. In return, we give you your name on the end of every broadcast on this channel as a thank you to let everyone know how awesome you are for helping us out. We also give you unairable and unaired content access, behind the scenes bullshit, fun and fuckery we can't give the general public. Only our Patreon subscribers get access to, just to show you a little bit more of how much we appreciate you. May or not be the thing, may or may not be some of the things that got us kicked off of OnlyFans as a podcast, but that's neither here nor there. So patreon.com/ImNoJoe. We appreciate you. Don't want to give us a buck? I get it. We do this for free pretty much every week, just the same. youtube.com/ImNoJoe. Pretty much every Thursday there's fights to talk about. We go live over here. And the week after that, we go to the all audio format of the re-upload. We understand we have mirrors, so you don't have to watch. You can listen. That being said, this is the point in the podcast where normally TJ's here, but either way, it's the only segment that requires its own individual disclaimer. So if you will. Tapology.com does not in any way, shape, or form support, sponsor, or endorse the I'm No Joe podcast yet. That being said, Tapology does offer the option to go onto their site, create a free account, and make fantasy MMA picks, just like we do here on the show. They even let you make groups. So we made one. It's called ImNoBookie, all one word, or group 965, however you need to find it. The group is open to the public, and you are welcomed and encouraged make yourself an account and let us know who the hell you are so we can hold your picks accountable with our picks in a little segment that this week is called Tapology with Meter. Thank you, Meter. You're welcome, Meter. So we have got a lot to grind through this week. And before we even do that, because I fucking forgot again, we're going to actually run down the combat sports menu for this weekend because I forgot once again, but I'm going to get it out before the end of the show, damn it. So, as is often the case, we run the show pretty much along the lines with the UFC's schedule, not because we work for the UFC or favor the UFC, but just because that's when the most combat sports generally tend to take place. And that being said, we also want to make a point to let you know that the UFC is far from the only game in town. There are plenty of combat sports to be had pretty much every weekend. This weekend, no exception. So, as is more often than not the case, this weekend starts off bright and early tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern, 7:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, with one Friday fights over on the other side of the world, number 85. This time around, we have got 2 MMA fights and 10 Muay Thai and 4-ounce MMA glove matchups. This is another one of those cards where the hardcores are going to know a couple here. Casuals are probably not going to recognize many, if any, names on the card. But if you need some punchy kicky with your coffee and breakfast, one's got you covered first thing in the morning. That being said, bringing it over to Saturday, still starting a little early though, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Cage Warriors 179 live from Rome, Italy. Cage Warriors is one of the most predominant, we like to call them UFC feeder organizations. Generally, when you're over here, you do good. Pretty much all of the champions, once you get your hands on that belt or maybe defend it once, generally you get yourself a call from the UFC and you get brought up. Controversially, it goes the other way as well. If you get bumped out of the UFC for whatever reason, a lot of times fighters will go back to places like Cage Warriors or LFA, make a decent run over there and get themselves pulled back to the UFC. This card, there are a couple that the casuals are going to recognize, not a whole lot. The hardcores are going to know about half this card, but combat sports in the afternoon on your Saturday. That being said, that brings us to Saturday evening's fun. UFC Edmonton live, 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central Standard kickoff for this one. We got into the card a little bit already, so you know what is there. That being said, getting back to the Tapology section because TJ's not here. This was the first official week of the end of the year tournament for the ImNoJoe group. The regulars are all in effect, and we had a hell of a battle. I will say only one person of the group. No, I take that back. 3 of us. I thought it was one. I was looking at the wrong page. I apologize. 3 of us from the group did fall under 500 this week, but that being said, we were all on the line with 6 of 13. Obviously, 7 of 13 would have been better, but we were all right on that line. So for the very first event of the ImNoJoe end of year tournament here, kicking things off by stepping on their dick and standing firmly, this guy right here. Oops. Wrong gift went up. Turn that one off. There we go. There's the right picture. Yeah, stepping on the dick. This guy right here. Stepped on it, stood on it, wore my golf tees, golf cleats, put holes in it. Yep. 6 of 13 only got me 400 points, so I'm starting off in rough shape. Now, luckily for me, Vindog the Booty Hog was standing on his as well, just not quite as firmly. He got 6 of 13 as well for 405 points, you little fucker. Don, not to be outdone, just standing tall, ever so slightly above Vinny, 425. Golf team making a bit of a stance above him at 525 in third place. Donna aiming for the top spot at 565, but not to be outdone this week with 8 of 13 correct, beating out Donna's 9 of 13 correct score. This fucking guy, wait, no, over there. This fucking guy over here, Slowbake with 8 of 13 for 580 points to take top spot, kicking off our end of year tournaments. There was some fuckery involved in the new setup of the game here this year. So instead of actually going to the end of the year, we actually apparently are going to UFC 312 in February in Sydney. But that being said, not a whole lot right now. Excitement wise, we will see how Edmonton plays out in terms of Tapology. So if you are not a member yet, join the group 965. ImNoBookie, all one word. However you need to find it, join up. Let us know who the hell you are. We can talk about your scores doing good or doing bad, however it plays out. If you do good, you get an attaboy. You do bad, you step on your dick and we talk about it, even if you're the one that does it. That being said, with as many not as exciting fights as there are on this card this weekend, you could probably understand how there isn't great odds, to say the least, when it comes to trying to make a little money here. But there are some bets, there is some money to be made here. So we will run down the biggest odds for this upcoming weekend. Now, Golf T uses MGM Grand or MGM Entertainment, whatever. They don't like me, so I am looking at DraftKings odds. DraftKings for these odds. These are not the only odds. You can find different odds pretty much everywhere you go, but these are the ones that I am looking at here. Pretty much, as Golf T likes to say, every one of these fights, top to bottom, is a coin flip. The biggest odds, there are two. Let me see. One. Yeah, not even really two. There are kind of two fights with decent odds. Pretty much everything here is plus 100 versus minus 100, or plus 200 versus minus 200 or less, with the exception of two fights. One of them, we both talked about it earlier, Jack Shore coming in at a plus 270 underdog to Yusuf Zalal as the minus 340 favorite. Those are pretty wide odds, in my opinion, here. I don't think either one of these guys really has a clear avenue to be that high above the other in terms of betting favorites, but I definitely do not see Shore as a minus 300 underdog to Zalal as a plus 300 versus minus 340. That's just a bit extreme, in my opinion, here. The other big one here, he talked about it earlier, Mike Malott at home, the minus 310 favorite versus Trevin Giles, the plus 250 underdog. There's not a lot of money to be made in that fight because there's a real good chance that Trevin Giles goes to sleep. But I think that one's probably about the closest to right on odds I've seen so far. That being said, co-main event, Blanchfield a minus 130 favorite versus Rose at a plus 110 underdog. I get it. I think I probably would have had the odds flipped, but I get it. And the main event, Brandon Moreno as a minus 175 favorite versus Albazi as a plus 145 underdog. I think I probably would have given Moreno a little more credit than Vegas is giving him here, giving Albazi a little bit less. I got to be honest here. I don't know what the fuck people see in Amir Albazi. I honestly do not. I got nothing against the guy. Don't know enough about him to have anything against the guy, but he has not done shit in the octagon to warrant this incredible fucking push he seems to be getting. I'm glad that at least he's the underdog in terms of Vegas's odds, but I would like to have seen it a little bit more because he has not proven anything in the cage to warrant getting this fight, let alone getting odds in his favor in this fight. So I'm at least happy that Vegas has got that part right. But even the main event is a coin toss, a coin toss. The co-main event is a coin toss. There's not a lot of odds here. So your money this weekend, if you're going to be betting on this card, is pretty much going to be made on parlays. That being said, that is pretty much all we have got for this particular episode here. Not a lot to get excited about on this card. There's honestly not a whole lot to get excited about on next week's card as well. We got 309 coming up in 2 weeks that has got all the fun getting stored away for it, but still always plenty of fun to talk about. Always want to make sure you guys know about all the goodness that is going down this weekend. So that is pretty much all we have got here. But as is always the case when we wrap up the show around here, that is not the end of the fun, because tomorrow and pretty much every Friday morning, he's over here. This gentleman right here and his other half will drop their podcast, the Slow Bake and Contemplate podcast, over there on Spreaker.com. Links to that podcast, as well as their social medias and their very own channel on the I'm No Joe Discord, all down below. Make sure you go down there and tell those guys how awesome they're doing.
Appreciate you, brother. And then, of course, the fun never fucking stops. Now that the man's back, it sucks that the brother, under the fucking weather, dealing with some shit. But came back with Foggy Fairway every Wednesday night. You got to tune in around 9:30 on Golf T Vape's YouTube channel. If you're into some vapes, you want to just kick it, chill, show the brother some love, learn some new recipes and mixes, tune in every fucking Wednesday night around 9:30 on Golf T Vape's YouTube channel. All of his information should be down in the description as well. If people don't fucking know, Meter doesn't just do the podcast. Meter does many, many things. So you got to fucking as well. Check everything out down in the description. Links all around. The Linktree / Meter does many things, right? Check out all the brothers shit, everything that the Meter does fucking do.
Much appreciated, sir. See, words are hard live sometimes. God damn it. Much appreciated, sir. Thank you very much. That being said, that is all we have got for this particular episode. So happy Halloween. Have a safe and prosperous evening. Enjoy it, you little devils. That being said, that is all we've got for this particular episode. So until next time, boys and girls, don't let ignorance stop you. You can root for anything, unless it's the Yankees winning the World Series.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening. How do I say goodbye to what we had? The good times that made